video for participants, add email, and it goes to astrology. Hey, there she is. Okay, you're ready. Now, get on here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, can you hear me all right?
I can. I'm not wearing earplugs. You're wearing earplugs, but you're okay with that, right?
Yeah, I figured last time I thought that I was using my microphone, but it turns out it wasn't it wasn't properly configured. So the whole time I had these in for no reason.
The marvels of tech.
Yeah.
All right. Now, let me see here. Have I got my, okay, let me see. If I stop it, I disappear. If I record it, I'm on. Okay. I can always clip that bit out. All right. Well, rather than me waffling, why don't you introduce yourself? And then I have some questions for you.
Okay, sounds
All right.
good.
Okay. Carry on. Tell me, tell me who you are and who you think you are, etc.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Yeri and I am the owner of Astrology Healing Arts, LLC. I'm an astrologer of 25 years, also a psychic reader and an author. That's in summary my identity in the world of things.
Hmm. Yeah, okay, that's good. And I came across your work because of your interest in things I would call esoteric or what were occult at one time, occult meaning secret, not anything negative. And so I got interested in your astrology from that point of view. So I wanted to ask you how you got interested in it and how long you've been doing it and that kind of thing.
Sure, yes. I definitely am an avid researcher, and I do consider myself to be an occultist, I guess. That's a term that I don't normally call myself that, but I have always looked at the hidden side of things, not just in a spiritual way, but also into those things that would be called conspiracies, just the undercurrents and the underpinnings and the things that we're lied to about, because I think that on the whole, we as um, a species, we've been lied to about just about everything that's pretty significant to us. And I
Yeah.
find that, a source of endless fascination. But I also, because of my particular spiritual orientation, which is leaning towards Gnostic, I also don't allow myself to become too fascinated, if that makes sense. Because you can tumble a little too far down any rabbit hole, and that could be a distraction.
Yeah. When I hear Gnostic, for me, the word Gnostic, because of its Greek roots, it basically means one who believes that you have to know, one who wants to know, knows being knowing. And so some people think if you're a Gnostic, you're not a Christian or you're not a Muslim or you're not a Taoist. But a Gnostic is basically someone who believes you have to know to grow. And there can be Gnostic streams in any tradition. And of course, historians usually date it back to things before Egypt. It's a very old line of thought, basically, connected to Hermetics and things like that. So when you say Gnostic, tell me what you mean.
I definitely agree with how you've explained that. And I would say that it is a bit nuanced, especially nowadays, because I think Gnosticism, I've noticed, is a growing trend. And there are definitely earnest seekers of the ancient wisdom.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's just this sort of what I call uh, LARPing, of the old ways, Um,
Costume
and
drama.
yeah, I mean, so I don't really know exactly how to answer this other than to say that it's I do think, like you said, there could be Christian Gnostics, or Gnostics who don't consider themselves necessarily to be Christians.
Yeah.
Um, but in my particular um, way of approaching this, I do read a lot of scriptures, even though I don't consider myself to be a Christian by today's standards.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I get it. Uh, how did you get astrology uh, matched up with healing?
Well, I've been actually involved in healing arts longer than I have with the astrology because ever since I can remember, I've taken an interest in herbs and plants and different modalities. I've always been drawn to a holistic way of life. And so once I discovered astrology, it seemed like the perfect bridge. It helped complete the picture. It was something that I felt they definitely should go hand in hand as they did in ancient Greece, right?
Yeah.
That was the approach back then, and
Hmm.
now it can go in a lot of different areas, which is great. But it actually started with healing for me.
Okay. What was what was the jump point?
Well, when I went beyond what I was seeing in the Sunday papers, which is pretty, superficial. And that's why I never bought it. I was like, okay, that's cute. And I had to actually, you know, have a reading done where I saw the whole chart, the whole horoscope, and I was impressed. There's so much more than just your sun sign and how the pieces fit together to explain the story of your life and not just the story or the imprint, but it's a living, breathing thing. It's like we have transits and progressions. And so we have the birth chart, which is the stamp the moment that we came out and took our
Yeah.
first breath. But
Yeah.
then there are cycles that are, shown around the wheel. If
Yeah.
we're using a wheel, the Vedic
Yeah.
astrologers use a square, but
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. Um, so you went from healing into astrology, and then you use things in conjunction with your astrology that other people may not use.
absolutely. I think everyone who practices medical astrology tends to have a certain favorite modality. such as herbalism. This is a very popular combination to use the herbs and the astrology, and they call it astro-herbalism. In
Hmm.
my case, I definitely incorporate herbs into my practice as well as flower essences, different types of energy work, and also I am a biofeedback practitioner, technician, so I combine that as well.
Yeah, that's interesting because that you see in some ways that it combines the new and the old.
Right.
The biofeedback is really modern technoscience confirming ancient meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you're kind of a bridge person between the past and the present since you're using all these different modalities. Do you find that you meet other people who are also doing that, or is it hard to find someone you can talk to about all of that?
Um, that's a great question. Both. I would say there are a growing number of practitioners who are, in the medical field using medical astrology, but I can't say that I know many of them in person.
Okay.
I took some training with Judith Hill, and I have high regard for her
Hmm.
teachings. Even before I knew of her work, I was on this path, and it just furthered me along in my studies and my research. But yeah, it is a little isolating at times because I
Hmm.
don't really. It's not just the healing arts that makes me a little bit of an outsider with the astrology. It's all the other things that I research and the things that
Okay.
I do and the things that I consider to be important and not
All
important.
right. Well, I suspect we'll get up on some of that in a few more questions. Um, you and I had a conversation about psychic self-defense, and naturally, it's got to be overlapping with astrology. But how did you come to link this idea of psychic self-defense with astrology? Because I read your book and I was amazed at the amount of detail, and I thought, I wonder how she got onto this.
Hmm. Well, it came to my attention as I started noticing patterns, certain patterns with psychic phenomena during certain times of year, certain times of day and night, and especially when the moon was in certain signs, certain phases. And as most of us know, when the moon is full, that's when it's said all the crazies come out, things are more
Yeah.
intense, people are more emotional. And it wasn't just the full moons, it was, for example, because I'm the kind of astrologer that anytime something major happens or I want to know a question, like we call that horary astrology, the
Hmm.
chart in that moment to get an idea of like the answer to a question or get some more information. So
Hmm.
I noticed, oh, it always seems to be in a water sign, Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces when these sorts of things happen. And then other patterns as well, like it often seems to involve certain planets, not just the moon, but maybe we're talking about Neptune, which is the planet, the outer planet that we can't see, that rules over things that we literally can't see. And
Yeah.
one of those different things, it rules the spirit world. So yeah, it was pattern recognition was a big part
Okay.
of it.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. And how would you say you would, if you're talking to someone who's unfamiliar with astrology, how would you say you apply it in terms of protective astrology?
Okay, well, what I outlined in my book, Psychic Self-Defense and the Zodiac,
Hmm.
were different techniques for, the signs to and from the signs, and
Hmm.
that was more the kind of psychological piece of the book. I
Hmm.
also have a section where I talk about amulets
Hmm.
and different sorts of natural remedies. And then I had a section where I talked about lifestyle changes or different sorts of exercises, meditations, or spiritual practices that one could incorporate into their, whatever spiritual background they have, because I'm not really focusing on a certain spiritual path, but just knowing most of us can agree that there's more than meets the eye here, and a lot of us are struggling with different things coming at us from different angles.
Yeah.
So, if the approach would be very different if we were talking about something like narcissism and how to deal with narcissistic abuse,
Right.
or a haunting in a house. I would give a totally different set of um, you know, instructions for that with astrology in mind.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you had intimated a few minutes ago about how the world is. And I wanted to ask you if you thought more people are vulnerable psychically now than before in history. And if that's true, why do you think that is?
The distraction, the level of brainwashing. I think that psychic attack has always existed since the dawn of time, as far back as we can trace it.
Hmm.
Um, and every tradition, we hear this saying, know thyself. It's in the Bible, but it's in every religion in some way. Know thyself.
Right.
By knowing oneself, one is empowered to make different choices the more awareness one has. So we live in a culture now that, in addition to a variety of onslaughts, both physical and emotional, all levels really, spiritual, mental, emotional, we are so distracted and disconnected from ourselves and from nature and from each other in a true relational sense. Because in the digital world, there's nothing wrong with the fact that, like you pointed out when we had our last talk together, there's nothing wrong with having a Zoom meeting, but it's definitely not the same as an in-person thing. And it's the same thing where people have a lot of different ideas of what spirituality is and what selfhood is, but it's based on what they see on TikTok, for example, or YouTube. And it's just
Okay.
not the same, no matter how profound the teaching is, you know, unless you're able to actually bring that into your life and experience that and empower yourself with that knowledge, then it's it's not very helpful, is it? So that's the long-winded answer. So you were saying something.
Well,
Remind me of the,
I was just asking about psychic attack, if you thought
yeah,
more prevalent now than in
definitely.
history. And
Well, no, yes and no. Like I said, it's always existed, but I
yeah,
think that I think the problem that's different, let's just say, from, maybe a few hundred years ago, is that um, it's harder for people to hear that still small voice within, and to separate things, or to find quiet time, or um to even understand. Because I think there was a time when more people were sensitive to the spirit world, and they
yeah,
knew and they saw. More people were clairvoyant naturally.
yeah,
Everybody is psychic to some extent.
right.
But nowadays, it's just harder for people to figure out what's going on, and therefore harder to defend themselves.
Do you think people are overcome by all this information?
Yes, because there's so much of it that it's not really being made use of. I mean, that's a really broad sweeping statement right there. Generally, I'm not saying that for some people who are really adept at sifting through and weeding through and taking what they need and tossing out the
Mhm.
rest,
Yeah.
hey, it's great. It's like a big smorgasbord of anything you could hope for and want to know and learn. And there's so much information. But for a lot of people, it's sensory and data overload.
Yeah, that brings back your biofeedback, um, which basically is a way to teach people how to pay attention
Definitely.
and to actually to simplify their mind to specific targets. Um, so I can see how that would be sane making
Hmm.
as opposed to standing in the explosion of data.
Hmm.
How how do you? It strikes me that you're interested in history because you're talking about how people used to be and how they are now. And
Hmm.
I agree with you. And I have lots of reasons to agree with you. But obviously, you would think that history is very important for people to get a hold of to understand what's happening. So, would you comment on that?
Absolutely. We've all heard the saying, history repeats itself. And I'm saying, how can it not when the real history has been hidden from us and we're doomed to repeat the site like a broken record, the same things over and over? Because if you learn a lesson, you really get it, you don't repeat it, at least not in the same way.
Yeah.
But if you can fool the people enough that they're all mixed up about the details, then you can set up the same traps and maybe, make it a little more modern for the times, but they'll fall into the same traps over and over. They didn't learn anything because they've been lied to. And so it's not our fault that we've been lied to, but the reason why I consider it an important aspect of self-defense in a psychic sense is that when you dig into the past, not what you're given in school, this nonsense that we're fed in school and by society, but you actually have a thirst for knowledge and you want to uncover, what really happened. And you can't take my word for it or anybody's word for it. This is a journey that it's like a spiritual journey. Each person's results are going to be unique, but you start to connect the dots, right? And you go, oh my gosh, that happened then and here. And then you start to see this bigger picture. And while we can never fully prove what happened 2,000 years ago because so much got lost in the shuffle,
Hmm.
we can get better clues by looking for breadcrumbs.
Hmm.
And it's the places that um, the dictators and the controllers of our society don't want us to look at.
Yeah.
So they'll make it seem like that's really silly, or, you know, that's um, that's just another one of your goofy conspiracy theories, and they'll try to ridicule anyone that goes down those avenues and put something on Snopes, so make people feel like fools because they're like, oh, well, I just want to know, but is it true? It's like it,
I know, and then you research Snopes and you find out that they're not exactly God's elected. You
living on their couch with drinking their soda pop. I mean, how does this work?
know, I know. You just have to have a good branding. You know,
Exactly,
it's all about
exactly.
branding and getting a reputation. Who was it who said it? I think it was an actor, and he said, "It doesn't matter if it's true as long as you get it out first."
Yeah.
it's everyone's rushing to deliver a message to get branded and have an image, whether they actually know anything or not. Uh, it was Denzel Washington, I think, who said that. They just want to get it out first. Truth doesn't matter. And this is what you're telling me that you're observing.
And I'll add one more thing to that. It's, there's another saying that what you don't know can't hurt you, and I vehemently disagree with that. And that is the basis of my book. What
Yeah.
you don't know can hurt you badly,
Oh,
very badly.
absolutely. Any ocean lifeguard knows that.
Hmm.
That's why we have shark watchers. Yeah. Oh no, I know cases of voodoo, and the people say, "Well, I don't believe in voodoo." And I'll say, "Well, if if they've got one of those dolls of you and they're doing something to it and you get sick, it doesn't matter that you believe or not. There's a cause and there's an effect. And there are things in life that will trespass what you believe."
Absolutely.
And I think there was a story about,
Astrology is one of them.
yeah, there was a philosopher who walked up to this man and said, "I believe that you're just a figment of my mind." And the guy hauled back and hit him in the nose and said, "Well, how does that feel in your mind?" So we can intellectualize till the cows come home.
Right.
But there is a reality. There is a reality, and it has light and dark aspect for sure. Um, did you, or it may be trespassing into personal territory, but there must have been at a certain point when you realized that you were being lied to about history.
Hmm.
How old were you?
Um, hmm. It's hard to answer that in a neat way, because I think I've always had suspicions
Yeah.
about certain things um, that later, and I want to say this journey of exploration, like I said, like I've been doing astrology readings for about 25 years, but
Yeah.
the serious research into history has been less. It's been about, I want to say, maybe 15 years max.
Mhm.
10 years ago, it got more serious. Then I really started to dive in. And at that time, it was becoming more accessible on the internet, that a lot of research was coming out. And it was confirming, some of the research was confirming things I always had hunches about, but never had anyone to talk to as a child. And I was not a child of the age of the internet. That came later. So that reveals a bit about, um, a little answering your question, but I didn't have any proofs. And I
Yeah.
still don't think any of us have solid proofs, but I think we have pretty good ideas. And the more that we look at these things, the more they make sense, and we get a lot more of an accurate picture of what has happened and how it's led us to where we are now. That's the
Okay.
thing that's really eye-opening as well.
So what I get from you on that is it was a sort of gradual dawning and a
Hmm.
confirmation of your suspicions, even from childhood.
Yeah.
So I think I think a lot of times we have hunches
Hmm.
and we have slightly demeaning words for psychic ability, like intuition and irrational and hunches. And when in reality, as far as I can tell, it's just solid, hard lock on telepathy.
Yeah.
We know something.
Hmm.
And then we have to do two things. One is fight our own indoctrination.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to hold up our shield to everyone else who's going to be giving us their recitation of their own indoctrination. And so it's work.
A lot.
Yeah, it's work. So this is what I'm realizing. You eventually came to this idea about psychic self-defense, and I want to call it real-time application of astrological principles due to the dawning realization that you had been misinformed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using nice words.
Oh, yeah.
You had been grossly misinformed about the realities.
As we all have. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Okay. Uh, hey, here's a point of contrast. We were talking about astrology and metaphysics and how the world is, and there's a whole collage of things there. But you're also a healthy Gnostic. So in the history of science is interesting because basically astrology was a motivating force behind Isaac Newton's calculus. And people don't know that. They think he was doing it for fun. They don't realize that his huge chest of astrological studies was lost after his death. And he was an astrologer as well as like the court economist in England,
Mm.
heavy duty. And so most modern scientists would say astrology, well, yeah, that's how it used to be in the old days, but now we're smart. Now we have astronomy,
Mm-hmm.
which of course, to my mind, means absolutely diddly squat. All it is a mathematical calculation of planetary and star movement that lead to nothing except more mathematical calculation, not attached to any meaning. So, what are your thoughts on modern astronomy?
Okay. That's a loaded question with a loaded answer. And
Well, I
and I'm
asked,
I'm
so
gonna
you'll
give a
you'll get your
disclaimer.
nasty you'll get your nasty email accordingly, I'm sure.
Yeah, 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 I'm sure. I've realized I'm about to open a can of worms. Maybe you just did, because this topic is one of the most hated. It causes more hatred and vitriol probably than any other topic that I've ever witnessed. But I'm just going to come out and say it. Um, and okay, first I'm going to say that I think what we've been taught in modern astronomy is absolute hogwash. And the numbers and the figures and the distances are so preposterous that I'm thinking, how can you? It's like certain things we've been told that happened a million years ago. How do you know that for an absolute fact, beyond a shadow of a doubt? Just wondering, okay? So, there's a lot of confidence in NASA and what they present. And so while I'm going to say I see the Earth as flat, and the reason is because I'm a geocentrist astrologer, and I don't really see the sun as being the central thing that we are moving around. That would be a heliocentric view.
Yeah,
Um, Now, people argue that the astrology would work in both systems. I use what works for me. What works for me is to look at it the way that the ancients did. Was in Ptolemy's book, books. He was a geocentrist. I don't necessarily think he was a flat earther or anything, um, but definitely seeing this as a stationary central point, uh, over around which the planets, the luminaries, they used to be called wandering stars. They move
yeah,
around us.
yeah.
So I don't profess to know and understand all of this. I'm a seeker. I'm a
Yeah.
seeker. So to
Yeah.
me, it's a big question mark. I could be wrong
Sure.
about this, but at least let's be open to the question because some people shut it down and for some reason they get very angry about this. I don't really understand the psychology of that, but I think it might be because it might possibly be one of the biggest lies we've ever been told. In addition to everything else we've been lied to about where we are in the scheme of things. And some people find it like, oh, you're taking all the joy out of it. What about space rockets and aliens and, all of this stuff? And it's like, well, it's still an amazing world. There's so much to explore, and we don't know what's beyond. Is this all there is? No, I think there's more that's been hidden from us,
Hmm.
beyond the ice wall or whatever, beyond the firmament. But
Hmm.
I'm just saying that it's like the old map of the heavens and earth make more sense to me, at least,
Yeah.
than the photoshopped stuff that we're given. Because another argument that a lot of people have made that are doing similar research that I'm doing, um, is they've taken photos, and they've looked through their own telescopes. One of the first people that brought this to attention now is Eric Dubay. He's like one of the biggest flat earthers, and but he said like if we actually look at the planets with our own devices, we don't see the same thing that we're being shown through NASA's photography. So we're seeing these glowing lights, these luminous, and they do have the colors, like Mars is reddish with a
Yes. Oh,
reddish
yeah.
light.
Yes.
But I mean, and these could be living beings for all we know. These could be beings that we have a relationship to from down here, from up there. I don't know, but
Well,
it's a big.
the medieval view was they had a particular word and it was influence, but it meant rays, like rays of light.
Mm-hmm,
And since the the planets that could be seen with the naked eye did have particular colors,
mm-hmm,
uh, the idea was that those were rays on you that had effects. Now, there were others who said they were signposts marking places the rays came from. So it's a bit like saying the power that is associated with Mars does not come from the orb or the disk or the light. Rather, it comes from behind it, but the light marks the location in space where the powers come from. And they affect that thing and give it that color. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because color meditations in ancient history are among the oldest.
mm,
And sun gazing, which amplifies your ability to see the colors in your head, to the point of looking at glowing stained glass mandalas in your head when you close your eyes. Because we're so light sensitive, and because light has such tremendous psychological power over a human being, try living in a cave and you'll understand, right? Uh, I think that everything you're talking about from a physiological point of view carries most of the human reality that we look up, we see a color, we have a feeling, we see the movement. There was and I'm going to waffle on for a minute. There, I think it's around the 14th century. I think it was an Arab named Hayy ibn Yaqsan wrote a book called we've translated as The Journey of the Soul. And it's the Islamic version of Robinson Crusoe. And it's a little boy who loses his parents in a shipwreck, and he's on an island by himself. And at night, he sees the planets and the stars, and they're so pure and beautiful. And so in the daytime, he finds stones on the beach and he runs in circles around them and pretends he's like one of these lights he sees. And he tries to have this pure feeling from what he's seen in the night sky. And the book goes from there. And you'll find it very fascinating because what it is it's a commentary on what is our human experience, not our rationalization of our human experience. And what you're telling me makes perfect sense in regard to how we feel viscerally in relation to the created world. So I get it. Another thing was, and I'd be as happy with the flat earth as a round earth. I don't really care. And I'd have to have that fancy craft to fly around to figure out the truth. Uh,
Yeah.
but whichever way, Sherlock Holmes said he didn't have room in his mental attic for everything, so he didn't even know the Earth went around the sun. And Watson got so upset with him, and he said, "Well, it's not relevant to what I do." And so there is some of this too. But when you have daily reports that tell you that you're on a planet that goes around the sun and that you're this and that and this and that, and you've been told that since you were a small child with big picture books, uh, it does smack of a kind of indoctrination of this is how it is, this is how it is, this is how it is. And if you start to question any reality you were taught as a child, to me, it's a sign you're pecking out of your own egg.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to emerge out of your own conditioning, whatever it is. Um, but in defense of your position, and I'm always good at playing the devil's advocate, so this time I'll be the angel's advocate. Pilots do their calculations based on the flat earth paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
And they fly from one place to another, assuming they're moving along a flat plane.
That's curious.
So, in theory, if the earth was curved, their calculations would not work.
Mm-hmm.
And pilots know this.
Uh-huh.
And so you could ask a pilot and say, "Hey, I have a question," and just play dumb. Is it
Yeah.
true you calculate for a flat surface all the way to the next destination? And he would say, "Well, yeah, we do." And you just get those noises, right? And you just walk away and go, interesting.
Yeah.
The entire flight world is based on the calculations of a flat surface, not a curved surface. So I'll throw that out to you for your further encouragement. But
Thank
I, like I think whichever anything is, anytime you get into dimensional physics, reality can move in any number of ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I never feel that one point of view is particularly restricting to anything else happening. So I'm with you there. Um,
I
so
appreciate your openness.
yeah, I want to ask you about astrological cycles because we talked
Mm-hmm.
about history repeating itself, and I know for
Right.
a fact that I've got hit on the head lessons more than once in my life, and so I want you to comment on that.
Cycles, yes. That's tied in with the history, but it's also tied in with our own ability to track these cycles so that we can better prepare ourselves for, oh, the next time this happens. It's like with what anyone does with the weather report, how one gets an idea of what type of weather it's going to be and then dresses accordingly, packs travels accordingly, knowing that there's going to be a storm, so I'm not going to wear my shorts today, or this is going to be a long haul. It's going to be a very hot summer, so I'm not going to plant XYZ in the garden. I'm going to wait. So
Uh-huh.
it's same thing with the cycles. We understand that um, everything in astrology is based on cycles. Everything. Um, in Ecclesiastes, in the Bible, it says, there is nothing new under the sun.
Mhm.
So everything that's happening now is, speaking of history repeating itself,
Yeah.
it's just another version of what happened. And there might be some slight differences, and people have different names and all these things, but it's the same types of themes. And so when I wrote the chapter, Astrological Cycles and World Events, what I was attempting to do is bring more awareness to these cycles so that, first of all, it's a navigational tool to help people, and people can find their own patterns. It's just all it is just you pay attention, right?
Yeah.
Every year, it's like clockwork that, especially during the solstices and the equinoxes, there's a lot of intensity, often a lot of crime or, political upheavals
Hmm.
that happen during these times.
Yeah.
And it's not just a coincidence. These are cyclic events, the turning,
Hmm.
of a new season. It brings in a new cycle. And um, a lot of people don't realize that elites, as we often call them now, they know about astrology. They just want us to think it's our kid stuff, our play stuff, our Sunday paper, entertainment, but they use it as well. And there's ample evidence of that throughout history.
Hmm.
But um, it's it's so how can I say this? It's so telling and so accurate once you start to recognize the patterns that it you can't you can't sorry, I just lost my tone my train of thought right now.
Well,
Can you edit that?
yeah. No.
I got so lost in my
Well, you
thought of
got.
how I'm going to say that.
Well, it's about cycles, and
Yeah.
basically, you're saying it's there, and if you watch it, you can record it, notate it, and be ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's about just being prepared because there are a lot of things that happen every year now to the point where I'm just like, oh, there it is. Aha. So I'm not, once um, these things can't elicit the same reaction. And the reaction is, part of a chain of events as well. Um, so if you don't react the way that has been intended for you to react,
Yes.
you're taking your power back.
Yes, you are, and it to me that implies an elevation of consciousness because you do know you can catch yourself before you get involved in the hysteria.
Hmm.
And so for me, the the cycles that repeat are supposed to make you more conscious, but that doesn't mean they will. There's a person involved there who has to want to be more conscious.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So when I first was looking at astrology, I used to buy the Farmer's Almanac, and sometimes I still pick one up
Hmm.
because of the planting and the planting and harvesting times, because they work. Their records of which lunar phase to plant in are fantastic.
Hmm.
And if you because I would say early on, I became a greater believer in astrology because of the planting times of the Farmer's Almanac. Because if you plant according to their lunar times, which are all based on historical experience, basically, if you plant on that third phase, on that day between those hours, as they say, your plants will come up in record time. They will come up in half the time of if you plant any other time,
Mm-hmm.
at which point they may not come up at all. So,
Yeah.
so I came at it agriculturally in some ways. So like you, I was a skeptic, but when I realized the lunar phases, the moon phases definitely are intimately connected to plant growth. And there's your seasons then.
Mm-hmm.
And you can throw in your bees and all that other stuff that comes behind pollination. So I'm with you on this cycle idea. But I think one thing that you have said that I agree with, that the people hearing this might find interesting, is however much the cycles repeat, as you become aware of the cycles, you're no longer a victim of the cycle.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's no longer what do they say? Problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So so astrology has relevance to modern times because it keeps us from being overcome by the media.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I get. Astrology is more objective than the media feed.
It is.
Yeah.
As well, if a person can get their biases out of the way enough to really see the overall pattern.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm also getting from you as we talk is this idea that there's a certain amount of mental and psychological steering that you can do with astrology that allow you not to be victimized by the media and by the environment. Would you say that's true?
I would. Yes.
What do you have to say about how people's minds are controlled?
Well, a lot of decisions that people make, from what I've observed, are not decisions that they've made um, entirely on their own volition, coming from within, like a decision, something they truly want to do. A lot of people are being influenced in ways that they don't even realize. It's as if people are walking around in hypnosis most of the time, not just when they're in front of a screen, but we all kind of fall into that state of that's been scientifically shown. We kind of, when we're driving or when we do anything that's a routine, brushing our teeth, taking a shower,
Mhm.
sometimes people in the middle of a conversation kind of doze off so it makes us very easy targets for mind control and manipulation for a lot of subliminal messages. So, um, it's people are not acting in ways that are conscious. It's very unconscious behavior. And so my work is it goes beyond astrology and I am doing psychic work and healing work and um the work of well, what I would say is kind of like the work of going back home. And um, a lot of that deals with cutting out the noise, recognizing, sifting through what is real, what is not real. And that too can be very subjective, objective. So, but there are definitely things that we can agree upon that we are all seeing. Oh, the sky is blue, you know, the fire truck is red. These sorts of things we can all agree on. They're very, whether it's that they're real or we've built up so much thought, there's the consensus around that.
Hmm.
of what it is, right, in our
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, a lot of it has to do with consciousness.
Hmm. So your angle, your view of astrology is that when you do someone's chart, it's with the idea of making them more self-aware.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is the the time of, you know, mass rapid information exchange like never before. And people are being made to handle terrific amounts of entirely useless information. And I don't think it's a problem, but what I think is it's misplaced attention. I'll give you an example. If you look at a flower long enough, you notice the nuance, the color, the shape, you begin to understand what it means, what it's for. You have the sensory apparatus to download fantastic amounts of information from anything you turn your attention to.
Hmm.
And so, since you've got the ability to handle all those data bytes looking at a flower out in the woods by yourself, so much so that you can sleep by it and have it talk to you in your dreams and tell you its secrets, you got all that data equipment. And when you turn that to a computer screen, obviously, all of those abilities, all that information, uh, all of your antennas are directed toward tech instead of nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the people who are doing that, which is most people in the quote tech world, notice not in Papua New Guinea or in certain primitive tribes, so called in South America or Australia, those people have not fallen into the television or the computer screen yet.
Hmm.
But modern city people in Western culture have. Now, these people, they think they're undergoing a great awakening.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about that?
Well, I don't think much of it.
Yeah, and see you on your in
It's
your rocking chair looking off to the porch at the horizon when you say that.
oh wow, yeah. It's well, thanks to the New Age movement, this idea that we're moving into some higher fifth dimension has become very popular, that everyone's awakening, that you know, that we're ascending and all of this stuff. It's yeah, I mean, it's part of, I think this is by design, that this whole New Age movement was introduced at simultaneously with a lot of the new developments that were designed for the mind control. So, you know, when you put two and two together, it's not a great awakening, it's just a great deception. And it's something that it's, I, I do think that there are more people who are gaining awareness and gaining a lot more access to information that our ancestors did not have
Yes,
thanks to the internet.
right.
It's a double-edged sword, right? We also have this tool that can really be insightful and help us to grow,
Mhm.
but it's just how are we using it?
Yeah, yeah. Because I I think that people who are striving to be more self-aware, uh, they can use the data
Sure.
the right way.
Mm-hmm.
But that's different than simply being caught in a whirlpool of stuff you don't need, getting sucked into the abyss of the Great Awakening.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean it because it's like you suggested earlier, we can get so caught up on all the information and the memes and the reels, and what's on Witch Talk, and all the esoteric knowledge that's being shared, but in all these hokey ways. It's like I'm like I want to say it. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. It's just doesn't work like that. It's yeah, okay, I understand the excitement. You're onto something, you're starting to learn, but um and then it's just another form of entrainment. It's another toy. It's cheapened. And it's
Yeah.
like pearls, casting pearls to swine.
Well, once again, look, I think LARPing is great fun, but it should never be
Sure.
confused with genuine work.
Exactly.
And for those who don't know, LARPing is live action role play. It's when people dress in costumes and pretend like they're in the Lord of the Rings
Hey, it's fun. I don't have
the
anything
Pilgrim.
against it either.
No, I love it too. And it's great fun. I like the Ren Festival as much as anybody.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm
Uh,
not criticizing it. It's
yeah,
just
but don't mistake that for real inner work.
exactly. That was the point being made.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's why I had to ask you about your feeling about the Great Awakening, uh, because I had someone ask me what I thought about it, and I said, well, you have to realize that uh, if someone is a pig and they undergo a Great Awakening, then they're a pig with a Great Awakening.
Brilliant. Well
So
said.
first you got to change the nature. First you got to go in and work with yourself before you're going to awaken to anything other than what you already are. May God help you. Uh, then you've got to go through some sort of inner work. That was my
Yeah.
point, and I think that's where you're coming from too.
Hmm.
And it's not enough to use the same words as somebody else and dress up in the right clothes or have the tattoos in the right place. Uh,
Yeah. It's all fun stuff, but it's not a substitute for what the real work is.
no, no. So to me, it sounds to me that astrology for you has become a genuine form of hard inner work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so when you do a chart for someone or give advice in healing or psychic self-defense, your hope is they're actually going to do something about themselves.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
don't I don't want to tell them, "Oh, this is what's going to happen in your future," or "This is how it's been," because that's not really it's not causing any growth. What I like to do is um, hand the steering wheel back to them and
Mhm.
say, "Hey, if you don't like the way things are going, you do have other choices based on these challenges you have and these gifts that you
Yeah.
have to overcome them."
And a lot of people are not aware they actually have certain gifts.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that has become more and more obvious to me as I've grown older. A lot of people are not only not, their gifts are unrealized, but I don't just mean they didn't, how can I put this? They simply weren't told they weren't gifted in school. That's one thing. My
Mm-hmm.
point is that people, because they haven't been directed toward what makes them happy, which I think is intimately connected to where your gift lies.
Mm-hmm.
I think they they've missed their gift because they've never been granted inner permission
Mm-hmm.
to seek satisfaction. That's not in the curriculum. It's not in the school curriculum. So if I have that right, then when you do astrology and you're handing the steering wheel back, you're giving them an opportunity to discover happiness that they haven't experienced before.
Yeah, and also the permission to be themselves, because a lot of people were not encouraged to discover or explore their true potentials. They were
Yeah.
taught how to be what their parents wanted them to be, or the school wanted them to be, or
Mhm.
the church, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or they just came in some very unfortunate circumstances where, it didn't bring out the best in them, let's just say.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. And I think that's the biography of most people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's your comment on the state of the world then? Because I'm assuming now we've talked about history, we've talked about cycles and astrology and history and psychic self-defense. You must have something to say about what's going on right now.
Mm-hmm. From an astrological standpoint, you mean?
Yeah, but also from just a world standpoint, because you've gone through a lot of what people call rabbit holes, and I just call them lines of investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Rabbit hole is a bit of a CIA moniker because it implies you go into a hole at which there's no end. And so for me, if you say rabbit hole, you've already started hypnosis.
Ah, yeah,
So
good
what I
point.
tell people is there are lines of inquiry that connect to
Mm-hmm.
other lines, and they don't go on infinitely. They tie into other things and have a definite beginning and end. So your lines of inquiry about where we are in history must be pretty interesting.
So the world now
Yeah.
has become something that we may have experienced the likes of before. If
Hmm.
if we go back to the legend of Atlantis, where it was said that they were a highly developed, technologically developed people
Yeah. Yeah.
that somehow, they abused their power and that's what caused the destruction. Um, Things have become more and more, um, I'm going to say it, divorced from nature.
Hmm.
And as a result, people have become less human.
Yeah.
And this is
Hmm.
the movement toward transhumanism.
Right.
And so, one of the reasons why I consider psychic self defense so important now, and what I focus on, unique to the times that we are in, I've used this sort of phrase, holding on to our humanity, so to speak. And when I say that, I mean the part of us, I don't even mean that in a way like, I'm not referring to flesh and bone.
Right.
I'm referring to the part of us that makes us humane,
Yeah.
caring,
Hmm.
moral,
Hmm.
you know, that sort of thing. And so in the state of the world right now, I don't think it's good. Um, I don't see it as a getting better. And I'm not trying to be doomsday about this. I also don't know what the outcome is. And I'm open to the possibility that there will be some sort of great awakening or shift for the better. But as for now, I'm not seeing it.
Hmm.
Um, and astrologically, what I would say contributes to this manifestation is that we have had three major ingresses in a row since last year, all making certain alignments with each other that are very unique, and we are living in unprecedented times. All the astrologers are talking about it. Uh, Whatever the philosophy is, we're all talking about this time that
Hmm.
we're in. We've got Pluto now in Aquarius for the next 2 decades,
Yeah,
and Uranus, the planet that rules technology and advancement, has just entered Gemini, which is an air sign that has to do with um, communication and also technology. And let me go back. Pluto is it's the small, demoted dwarf planet that packs a big punch. And it relates to the masses. It relates to the influence of the masses, especially in ways that are very cataclysmic and transformative. And so we've got that now in Aquarius, the sign of the hive mind, of humanity at large, of groups,
hmm,
of technology. So, and we've got Uranus now in a trine with Pluto. A trine is an aspect where the two meet in kind of a harmonious
yeah,
connection where things happen together with ease with these two planets. So it's kind of ushering us in where things are going to speed up even more than they have. We've just had a glimpse into things in the past decade with the cell phone technology and everything. Now it's really going to speed up. And then we have Saturn, the planet of the physical realm. Saturn is like known as the Lord of Karma, the Lord of Time and
hmm,
limitations. Saturn has just entered Aries this year, as has Neptune, the planet, as we mentioned earlier, the planet of illusions, mirages, that which cannot be pinned down, that which does not have a solid form. So
right.
these two planets could not be any more different. Saturn and Neptune coming together in the very first sign of the zodiac. This is huge. It's starting a whole new cycle. And the fact that it's not just that these two planets that are completely at odds with each other are coming together at in the first sign of the zodiac, it's that they're going to be joined exactly at 0 degrees. That's in February of 2026. 0 degrees, the first degree of the zodiac. It's considered a very critical degree. So a lot of people are feeling, people say, oh, this is a very revolutionary aspect. Well, add that together with all the other revolutionary things that are happening. It's massive,
Yeah,
massive change, massive, development. And I mean, we can take the good with the bad. I'm not saying that all of it is negative, but the challenge for us now is indeed how do we maintain a sense of um, integrity and
hmm,
awareness in our lives amidst all this change and advancement.
yeah. Advancement is an interesting word because it implies that someone has an agenda. And so whose advancement and going where and for what reason are my incurably critical questions when I hear words like global, evolution, advancement,
Right.
unprecedented, massive, change, all these big dramatic words that have no target point. I'm always in the background wanting to know what the target point is for whoever's using the big words, because obviously they're trying to stir a cheering section up to go somewhere. But we're not often told where they're going to go with it
Mm-hmm.
until you get to the transhuman part, and then pack your soul in a tin can, and you can forever on the shelf
uh,
with permanent shelf life. You know.
Enjoy the bug burgers.
Yeah, yeah.
Enjoy the
So,
cockroach milk.
so
You
this
will
whole
own
thing.
nothing and be happy.
Well, yeah, all the big Maurice Strong propaganda points. Um, he was the one that started the global warming and all that.
Yeah.
How do we round everybody up to be happy in their groveling? Uh, and, in some ways, I think social media has become the great pacifier, like sticking
Yeah.
something in your mouth to shut you up.
Mm-hmm.
Only you're sticking something in the eyes to shut them up. And the bad food is just an adjunct. So between the bad food, the injections, and the media, you got quite a cocktail of flow going into the human organism.
Oh, yeah.
So with your dawning realization of the ongoing predicament of the human being striving to be more conscious, do you have certain practices you recommend people do to keep their nose holes above water so they're not eaten by the conglomerate data monster?
Yeah, I have suggestions. I mean, I would first say do what's within your means and with what's accessible to you. Not everyone has access to a front lawn or a garden or property they can grow their own vegetables on, for example.
Mm,
But the next best thing is support local farmers. Go to the farmers market to get your organic vegetables and fruits or whatever you get.
mhm,
And also consider not only going on the occasional food fast, but the occasional social media fast, or just or limit your exposure to these things because it's so commonplace now. It's such a way of life, especially for young people. I feel that they are introduced to these internet platforms at a far too young of an age,
mhm.
and it causes them to become jaded
Yeah.
and the opposite of educated from what I've
Mhm.
seen.
Yeah.
And so exposure to nature, to animals, to getting your fresh air as much as you can, getting real sunlight and fresh air. I'm all for having a balance of, having a balance of whatever type of meditation works for you. I don't think sitting down in a lotus position is the trying to empty your mind is the correct way for everyone. If for some people that would actually just cause more harm and be very frustrating because all they feel is, oh, my thoughts just keep going around. So then you know take an hour walk every day, um or find an activity. If it's needling, or if it's drawing, or
Mhm.
if it helps you to just do conscious deep breathing, or if
Mhm.
it's qigong or some
Mhm.
sort of yogic or martial arts practice like what you
Mhm.
teach.
Yeah.
That's really valuable because not only are um, you're helping your mind to kind of calm down, but um, you're growing your vitality and maintaining it. And this
Mhm.
is a very useful form of psychic self-defense and just self-defense in general because it helps you to become more resilient.
Yeah.
So having it, people should be willing to discipline themselves more. I think in our day and age, we've become a bit spoiled in a lot of different areas, and that's why we're not strong as a whole like our ancestors were. They had to be tough because they
Yeah.
had to go and do the hunting and they had to if they wanted to have chicken that night, they had to go wring the chicken's neck.
Yeah. It
And
is.
not go to the supermarket and get this thing in a plastic container, bring it home, and then microwave it the next day. I mean,
Mm.
there has to be some kind of thoughtfulness that goes into everything that we purchase, where our money goes. Yes, the monetary system is part of our enslavement, but we still need it
Yeah.
to survive, to live. So what are we supporting, trying not to buy the cheap stuff made in China or the stuff that's sugar laden with all these chemicals that we can't even pronounce, and things like this, just being more mindful.
Yeah. Yeah. Mindful is a big word. Yeah, it is. That all makes sense. Well, I look forward to your next update. I think that I don't know if you're going to do this, but I have a suggestion from the Peanut Gallery, which is I think you should do like a monthly astrological self-defense for the month blurb and put it up
Ah.
on YouTube and say, this month, this is how the shit's going down. Not
Okay.
you don't have to use my terrible vocabulary. But then you just say, this is the stuff to watch out for. Because there's certain standard things, whatever our own chart, we're going to have to pass through those speed bumps in that month. And I
Right.
think you can kind of give people a prep from the big picture point of view. I mean, yeah, you could tease it out. You know, Aries, don't be such a hard-headed idealist. Sagittarius, calm yourself down. You could address it to the 12 signs, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that's up to you. I think you could also just give very good, quick, generic advice, and everybody's got the 4-second attention span. So you could do the TikTok version, the Facebook version, or the long version. But I think coming at it from what do I look out for this month? A lot of people want to press the button and get a quick view
Mm.
rather than hear a story.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to throw that out to you
Thank you.
as a possible serving suggestion to your personal breakfast cereal. Yeah,
Good idea. I appreciate that.
yeah, I'd pay attention for sure.
All right. I'll see how that goes. I'll let you know.
Let me know. Well, that was pretty interesting. That takes us to almost an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting. And I appreciate you being amenable to my sometimes needling questions and sometimes offset commentary.
Do you have Scorpio highlight as a highlight in your chart
I
by
do.
any
I do. I suffer from,
I had a feeling.
yeah, I suffer from it immensely. And I'm accused accordingly. Anyway, yeah. So that's good. So let's do this again sometime.
Okay. Well, thanks
And
for having me on.
yeah, and what I'll do is I'll go through this. I'll send you a copy, and if you like it, I'll put it up on my YouTube listing with my Longhouse interviews.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds great. Yeah, I think there was only one point in there where I know that I made a if you could edit that part out where I got really tongue-tied all of a sudden. I think that was like about 2 minutes and 49 seconds in, somewhere between 45 and 49 minutes or
Well, I think there's two ways to look at it. One is you go in and you can edit it, but the other is it just makes it a very living interview. So, you know, we can always be looked at in different ways. But I'll send it to
Hmm.
you, see what you think.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, Yeri. Well, thanks for your time.
Thanks. Thanks for yours as well.
You betcha. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
All right, bye.